All right, today is January 29th. It's 11 a.m., and I'm happy to go bring you yet another Splinterlands AMA. It's great to be here. It's been a great freaking month. I mean, I don't know what to tell you other than this has been a phenomenal month, and I'm super stoked and excited about it. So, for example, we have brought on. I think we're going to end the month at like just shy of 60,000 registered users, and um, and like 19,500 total spell books out there. So that feels like a pretty nice accomplishment. We're growing at about 175 signups per day, and we're getting about 20 or so, 20 to 25 spellbook purchases per day. There are obviously some days that are higher and lower, but at that pace, without too much marketing going on, we're seeing that's a pace that would allow our user base to double this year. So, so I'm excited. I feel like things are going pretty good. Obviously, you guys are already talking about the GameStop and AMC and Doge, and these are really freaking crazy financial times. I have no other way to go talk about it other than that. I'm personally horrified, not surprised, but horrified by just like how much market manipulation the big guys are doing. Like there does appear to me to be two totally different sets of rules, one for the financial elite and one for us filthy peasants. So I've never been more bullish on crypto. I've never been more bullish on the importance of what we're doing for building games on top of the decentralized platforms, and really excited about just the attention the space is getting, the price of Bitcoin, and just where this entire sector seems to be going. So crazy times. Anything you want to add to this sort of weird times and introductions, Matt?
I mean, I felt this before, talking about times and about cryptocurrency. It's like, it feels at this point like everything is going Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies way, and DeFi and all that. It's felt like that for the last few months at least. And this is really just adding to that. I mean, it's the only thing that can be said. I mean, it's very obviously bullish for cryptocurrency and decentralized finance. I mean, you want a system where rules are governed by mathematics and unbiased software code rather than individuals or entities with agendas. And that's literally what cryptocurrency and DeFi is. So to me, it's just all part of the the movement and the ongoing switch into decentralized digital currencies and systems.
Yeah, so I recently got an article published into Cointelegraph. I did this with the head of the Blockchain Founders Fund, and we were talking about gamified yield farming, and that's a lot of what I feel like we're doing here in the Splinterlands, and just trying to help summarize what that might mean or look like to folks that might get gamification, might get yield farming, but don't know how you can combine those two. So I'm glad to get an article out, and this game, believe it or not, I really do feel like is at the vanguard of all of this. That we want to onboard people into crypto. We want them to, not everybody is going to come here and be part of crypto for the financial experience. So there has to be something to do here. There has to be some entertainment and some people to talk to and a community to grow with and get your questions answered. Some of that I imagine is going to be like, how do I best take advantage of the abilities of Mimosa? And some of that is going to be, what is a wallet and how does it operate? So I feel like we need to be doing all the things that our community does, of reaching out and helping people figure it out, and being one of the easiest places to onboard into crypto as possible, and get these people understand what it's like to earn and to have your property be on a blockchain, and interacting with blockchains and all the different parts and components of this. Um, so I don't know. These are exciting times. You know, I really couldn't ask for much more of like wind at our back than what we're currently seeing out there. So that's all pretty fantastic. Um, all right. So um, I don't know, any other kind of general thoughts or kind of general progress reports that you might want to put out on. We got the raffle done. Sort of what's on deck. What are we building? What are we doing? Matt, you're on mute still.
I am on mute. So, but it will be good to talk about what we're working on development wise. Obviously, still Guild Brawls is a major focus of Cryptomancer and also Nate for the art and design. Still shooting for Q1 of this year for that. So, very near future. And then me, I have a few things I'm juggling. I saw Level Up Life just asked about the DAI DEC pool. That is a priority. It's been worked on this week, and I'm hoping to launch it as soon as next week. So people will have a stable coin pool against dark energy crystals instead of Ether, which is, if you're bullish on Ether like I am, that might be a better option for you to earn dark energy crystal rewards. So we'll be putting up a post with the details of that, with some advance notice before any changes actually happen, so everyone can figure out what they want to do, and there's not, no one has to rush around to make changes or anything like that. I've also been doing a lot of work this week on the new rental system, and I'm pretty excited about that because I've talked about, I've always been excited, and I think it's a really kind of underplayed but very unique and awesome feature of Splinterlands, the ability to rent out your NFTs to other players and earn passive income and have opportunity for players to earn by renting cards for cheaper than buying them. So I worked with Jarvie a lot on coming up with an updated rental system. That's what I've been building. It's a big project, not a huge project. So I'm hoping in February that will be launched. And the idea is that you'll be able to enter into fixed rental contracts. So it'll be like, I want to rent this card at this price for 30 days. And then if someone, rents that card from you, it will be for 30 days. And the delegator can't just remove the delegation whenever they want because they entered into a 30-day rental contract. And, the contracts can be as short as 1 day, I think will probably be the minimum, or maybe as long as a year or something like that. And then the system will also automatically manage payouts. So if it's like $1 a day for 30 days, they would have to put in $30 worth of dark energy crystals, the renter up front, and it will be held in escrow and automatically paid out $1 worth every day for 30 days. And then there'll also be options for canceling contracts early, and the people putting their cards up for rent. Ideally, what I'm working on is that they'll be able to specify the early cancellation options, and then that can be part of what someone part of their decision. Do you want to rent this card for 30 days versus another card that has easier options for early cancellation or not? So really just make it up to the market to decide pricing for everything and how that works, and then have the system just enforce that. And then Peak Monsters is also planning on a big system, a pretty involved system as far as I understand it, to allow people to just say, hey, I want to rent this card and this is how much I'm willing to pay, and then it will automatically just figure that out for you. So if a new card comes on the market at a cheaper price, it'll just switch out to that card, instead of the one you were renting, or vice versa. So you can you don't have to worry about looking at each individual card listed and doing all the transactions. You can just tell Peak Monsters what you want to do, and it will figure that out and make all the transactions on your behalf, which I think will be really awesome. And then in addition, we're planning on, featuring that prominently within the market page on the existing Splinterlands website. So there'll be options on the market to buy cards, and there'll be options on the market to rent cards, and you'll be able to see all the rental options there, and filter and sort through the cards and rent them. And it'll include the option to rent out sets of cards or individual cards, so you can just be like, I have a silver level deck available for rent for this price for this amount of time. So that's the project. That's kind of the big one that I've been working on for right now. And like I said, hopefully at least the first version will be ready in February. I saw Byzantinus had a question about cooldown, and yes, it will include a revamp of the cooldown system to allow them to be able to switch out between shorter term rentals without having to wait a week before you can use your card. And so we have to kind of balance that out with issues around people using the same cards to rank up multiple times in a season, multiple accounts in the same season. But I think a lot of the collection power changes actually help mitigate that risk a good bit. So it will include a revamp of the cooldown system for that.
And credits, will those factor into this?
Credits will work the same way. So you'll be able to rent cards with credits too. And then on the back end, dark energy crystals will be given out to the person, the seller, I guess, in that case.
Sweet. All right, I'm going to scroll back up. There were some questions from Simply Mike. Is there an AMA planned for today? Yes. Will someone make sure there's a recording available? Yes. I realize I'm starting to sound like a broken record, but I'm still worried about the issue that Silver 1 players can't drop to Bronze, while people in every other league are able to drop an entire league. First time I brought it up, you agreed it was an oversight that should be fixed, but that was months ago. Biz and I brought it up on multiple occasions afterwards, but no update has been given. Realize you are extremely busy, and it's probably not the highest priority for you guys or the players, but every season I notice it's actually a big deal for people in Silver 1. In my honest opinion, they should receive the same option for a drop in league like everyone and not be stuck in the silver loop. Any news or plans for fixing this?
Yeah, you're right that I just keep dropping the ball on that one. So you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna ask Cryptomancer to do it, because then it'll get done. See, what happens is I hear about this stuff and I'm like, okay, yeah, I should do that, and then I'm in the middle of working on something like like the rental system or some big project, and I'm just focusing on that for a while, and then so that the little things that come up here and there, I don't get a chance to do them. And then typically when I'm not working on a bigger project, I'm just getting pulled into different calls or different opportunities. We have a lot of things in the works that we've mentioned for different partnerships and different business things that we're doing. We have to deal with taxes and all the end of year nonsense. So I just get pulled in like 75 different directions, and most of the time those things are like time sensitive. So I have to just prioritize them, and I just never get around to all these littler things. But Cryptomancer is purely just focused on making coding changes, and that should be a particularly quick one that won't we don't want to give him something that's going to take him a week away from guild tournaments, but for like an hour project to fix the ratings at most, that's a good one, and that'll ensure it'll just get done. So doing that, I'm going to go on mute so you don't hear me typing that little task for him right now.
All right. Question, what do you envision? This is from Kyokas. What do you envision the future SplinterTalk.io community providing for Splinterlands players? Currently, we have an occasional Did You Know in the pop-up regarding the Splinter Talk, acknowledging that it's a low priority compared to actual gameplay. Do you think that there are areas that can be used to improve engagement with the non-Discord oriented players? Yeah, so just in terms of things that I worry about a lot, I worry about social engagement, and not just through Discord. I want it to be primarily through the game. And so one of the big parts of launching the guild tournaments and guild brawls is the fact that there's a bunch of coordination that has to happen. And this is our sort of first pass at how do we do anytime tournaments that are specific for guilds. But I imagine that there's other kinds of group activities that we can put together And all of which it really needs to require that coordination so that you have some leadership, you have the players, you have some people sitting out that week, and everybody has to sort of figure out what their role is, which battles they're gonna fight, and I think that it's got to be that interaction. And Splinter Talk, I do think, can facilitate that interaction. In part, it's been on the agenda now for a little while to go get the skins, doing skins and having skins, maybe even be sort of like player created and enabled. There's still some outlying things, and it's hard to make the Splinter Talk piece be the priority. But as I don't know, we definitely see it as one of the ways that we can attract new players into the game, because we want folks to be able to earn, not simply just through playing, but also through blogging, which is part of what this Hive ecosystem offers and what this tribe can do. But it needs to be tied into actual functionality into the game, and that it just hasn't been the highest priority, because I know that there's a few people that really want this, and it is our intention to do it. It's just, takes a moment for multiple devs to kind of align with a good break. So that might be a good project for, in that zone where we're done with guild tournaments, we're working on the first boss fight, and maybe we have like a little bit of programming room, so that hopefully that's something that we could start looking at, of like, how do we make sure that the tribe things can interact smoothly with the skin parts of the game. So it's not like, I don't think it's infinitely far out, but we definitely need the major first release and whatever kind of bug fixing we need to do for tournaments to drop before I could see that coming onto the plates. But again, it's to me, a huge part of this is like, you guys can play to earn, and there are certainly ways to earn here. You might end up making more if you like sell your house and put it all into GameStop. You could theoretically lose your house and all of your stuff by doing that. So there's a variety of risk and return profiles. Splinterlands is within that, and you might change your risk reward profile over time in terms of how much you want to stake versus how much you want to earn. But one thing that you can't do anywhere else is like find a Matt Clark. You can't find another great community member like I don't know, the Simply Mike. You're not going to go find like Neil McSpadden in all these different places. These are unique, non-fungible humans, and that's part of our community. And so I think the more that we can focus on that community and keep people there and be part of the game, and not necessarily do it through Discord, but just be part of our crowd, our team, our home, our community, the more that's baked directly into the site and into the game, the stickier I think all of this will be. So I think Splinter Talk can help. I think Discord can help. I think the main website has to be the priority, but there are little avenues where I think that these things can come in. So again, this is back from 7:08 a.m. At least Eastern Standard Time. He asks a second question. This is Kyoka's. Can we have a peek at your list of want-to-dos that you might not have shared? Things both of the significant nature, new gameplay, and the more mundane, revamping rewards distribution, so that we can have a longer-term outlook just after general points of discussion to keep us busy while land is being developed. Yeah, I imagine that we can go get something like that out. And maybe that's even something that we crowdsource a little bit too. I know that I have a couple pet projects that I'm interested in. I know that Matt has a couple things that his brain is constantly focused on. So we can put together some thoughts of, some of that. It's funny because you have like product roadmap, you have marketing roadmap, and those are the two big roadmaps. But some of that is like corporate roadmap and hiring roadmap, and like there's all these things that go into running this that isn't just program the next feature. There's just a lot of crap that we have to wade through. So Let me go. How much effort and budget is Splinterlands putting on marketing? So marketing is a big piece. The budget is less so. We do spend some money for events like Digicon. We do try to get some partnerships up. There's still one pretty massive partnership that I'm working on. We're trying to get another thing going with Brave, and marketing is a big piece of what we do. It's not a big piece of our spending. But we found that the spending doesn't necessarily correlate to great new players, and it's these partnerships that lead to much more sustainable, long-term players that stick around buying cards, and so we've tended to emphasize that. That said, I have been talking to CoinGecko for the last month to see if we can figure out some ads that would go on there. We're still sort of waiting to see what that looks like exactly, but so we're planning to do more, in part because things are going well and there's room for that. But also, even if there were like $1 billion here, I'm not sure that we would necessarily spend it right away, because we want to make sure that there's a clear pathway for return on that investment, and just tossing money at Facebook doesn't necessarily do it. New rental system, we already talked about that. This is from Simply Mike. Is it possible somehow to make the invitation to join Discord be way more visible than the only icon hidden at the bottom of the page? People that end up on Discord are more likely to stay. Most aren't even aware of the fact that it exists. I tend to think that's a good idea. Matt, I don't know what you think about that, but
it is in a couple other places, but I think it's at the end of the tutorial. And there's also probably in the welcome email, but we should push it. That's a great suggestion, because you're right that it can only help retention. So we should really just really try to push new players to join Discord and send them to you guys. So again, I'm gonna write that down now. I don't know if you guys know, but probably can hear usually, but I do always take notes from the AMAs. So I come out of every AMA with a longer and longer list of things to do. Can't say that I get to a lot of them, but they get there, and I save them, and I try to come back to them or assign them out whenever I can. So that's the AMAs are not only just for you guys to hear what's going on from us, but I've really enjoyed them as a way to get suggestions and hear feedback from all of you.
Quantum Nachos is asking, are there any base ratios figured out yet for the different rarities of land versus their resources harvested? And I would say, even if we knew them exactly, there's almost zero chance that we would publish them. The actual numbers are going to be the very last thing that gets revealed. Is that still correct, Matt? Do you envision that's the pathway?
Yeah, because especially at this point, so we do have lots of ideas. There's a rapidly growing spreadsheet of building out this entire economy, and there are numbers in there for all of these different things. But the thing is, if we start sharing those now, there's chances that those could change significantly, and then we don't want people to start making decisions based on those numbers, and then get angry when it changes. So we've been very clear with the land pre-sale and up till recently, like, the information available is the information available, and that's part of the risk that you're taking, and the reason that there were big discounts and advantages to buying early, because you don't know everything, we don't know everything, and I respect and understand the fact that you want to know everything, and I can promise you that we will reveal things but we're going to wait until they're ready and they're done, because we don't want to go and reveal things even casually in an AMA when they could change very materially, and that could potentially affect people's decisions. So it's being worked on, but we're not going to say until we're sure and it's set in stone.
I'm the softy on this, and I like to go toss out numbers, but I'm not going to do it for this. It's too big of a project, and it's too there's too many variables that, and I've seen in too many different ways. It's really important that we get it right and not be held in place by something that I say offhand early on. So I'm gonna toe the company line there. Crypto Eater is asking any updates on the Ubisoft things. So that program actually wound down. I was able to go give a talk. I'm waiting to hear if I can go give a talk back or to display that talk to this audience. I presented in front of over like 110 or 120 Ubisoft employees, so that was pretty fun. Things keep developing. We're definitely on their radar, but we are still small compared to a lot of the stuff that they do. So I don't know. I think it was valuable to talk to them. They're good to have feedback. They've introduced us to a number of cool parties. We'll see what continues to develop. So I'll go with that. Mr. Khan is asking, as Engine released a DSwap, is Splinterlands going to use it for buying cards from the market with other tokens, like using Leo, so DSwap sells for Hive and buy DEC to pay the seller? That's actually the internal Hive Engine tokens are already available to do that. So if you want to sell Leo and buy DEC, you can go right ahead and do that. The piece that's missing right now is your vanilla cryptos, where you could deposit Litecoin, have it automatically switch to swap.litecoin, then go to swap.hive, and then purchase your DEC. And that part is not functioning yet, but we're working on it. So
I think he's also asking if it would be just like integrated into the game website. So you just can click like buy cards with Leo, and then behind the scenes it uses DSwap, which I think is cool. I'm not sure. I mean, right now we have it. Basically, you can buy credits, right, with various cryptocurrencies, and then use them to buy cards in the market. So it's a two-step process versus potentially a one-step process. But it's pretty much already available. So you can take your Leo and just buy credits, and then use that to buy cards on the market. So I'd say it's already in the game, and I'm not sure, like, while it would be a little easier and cooler just to do it right through the market and not have to go through credits first, I'm not sure that's would get us all that much.
Okay. So, Biz is asking, are more tournaments coming? Yes, I'll go put them in today. Will I factor in the price of DEC for the prizes? No, I will not. That it's like a DEC pool that we provide. Will you rotate the starting and end time of the tournaments again? Yeah, my plan is to basically do it once every month and rotate it by about 8 hours. So I think I changed the tournament structures, and I think I'm going to go lower the tournament fees again. So I think I'm going to cut the fees down, and I'm going to rotate the time by 8 hours. And I'll go put up, I imagine, another month of tournaments is my plan. Let me see how many events are. Yeah, I have wiggle room for that. So that's my plan. My plan is to go put up a month, and somewhere hopefully in the middle of February, the people that have been discussing and putting together their thoughts on new tournament structures and whatnot can provide some sort of set proposal to us that could be in consideration for March. So those are the two changes I'm looking at for tournaments. It should be the same as this month, except rotated 8 hours, and fees I think I'll reduce again. All right. Question. I have found a few teams that hover around the 200 to 400 ratings. What would be next steps on filling the space with more new player-friendly bots so that we have more match liquidity for new players? IMO, fighting 5 to 10 fleas or summoner-only teams is worse than playing higher-level players, both an issue.
Yeah, this was a discussion we had in one of the channels. So Splinterlands runs like 10 bot accounts with just the starter cards for the sole purpose of making sure that new players can find someone to play and will usually win. And they mostly play in practice, but would also do ranked. too. But there's definitely been brought up the issue that, even beyond just the initial battles, new players will typically run into a bunch of broken bots that just flee or just play a summoner and no monsters or whatever. And then, as they get a little bit into bronze rating, it's hard to find like good teams to play, and that's a huge problem for the new player experience and something we should definitely work on. So I kind of obviously am busy on other things, so I've kind of put it to the people like Crypto Reaper who are asking about it. If the community would be interested in trying to set up those new player bots for Bronze League. And I said that I would be happy to help out with that however I could, but if that's something that in general the player can do, and we can help out either through helping to like fund it or provide advice or whatever we can do, we'd definitely do that. So I'd say if you have things that are looking good and you need some help with it, just DM me, and we'll figure out what we can do.
Madgall is asking, technically speaking, is Splinterlands as of today scalable to the masses?
Well, so yes and no. I think Splinterlands as of right now can scale, I'd say easily 3x, should be no problem. As we get to more than that, I would expect we will start running into some scaling issues, but there's also a lot of low-hanging fruit to make things run faster and easier that we can do that can get us to easily like 10x volume without like a ton of coding work. And then, as we go from there, there's more work that we can do to make it scale better. So that's something, that type of stuff is stuff that I work on here and there constantly. So it's typically like a nighttime thing. I don't know, that's how I work. I like do a major project like card rentals and delegation during like the work day, and then like at night or something I just kind of focus on more back-end scalability stuff. So I'm always working on that here and there. I go back and optimize things when I can to make things run faster and monitor how many transactions we process per second and that type of stuff. But I don't really see that as being an issue. If there's really a humongous spike in users, all of a sudden we may have to do some work to fix things and make things a little faster. But I don't see that as like a big problem for us.
All right. Question: with the new land and item spell cultivation, will the game become a full-on pay-to-play? Meaning, will players be able to buff the hell out of their teams or debuff opponents and constantly crush players who don't use these spells items? Will playing in the old style without these things, cards only, still be an option?
I think we are planning to have an old style, no items and spells option, but as much as possible, we want everyone to use the items and spells. And my feeling is that I think you'll find it's a much better game overall with that added layer of complexity. But I don't think it's really it should be the exact same thing as having higher level versus lower level cards right now. So if people don't have the items and spells or don't have as many or as high level, their rating will be lower, right? So they'll at the end of the day get matched up with people who have more similar ratings and likely similar skills or cards as they do. So I don't think it makes it any more or less pay to play. It's really the same exact concept, same way it works now. It's just additional things in the game. If you're concerned about you have cards and you don't want to take part in the items and spells thing, that's certainly your decision, and you don't have to. And like I said, I think we'd probably try to keep an old style around. But that being said, if we keep the old style around and the new one's clearly much better and the vast majority of people are playing that, it may not at some point be worth it for us to keep running the old style. So we'll see there. But in general, like with a game like this, whether it's items and spells or whether it's just new sets of cards, we've mentioned many times, and I'll mention it again, that at some point, probably with the next set, which is going to be called Chaos Legion after Untamed, there will be like, a modern type format similar to in Magic the Gathering, where only the newer sets are allowed to be used. And then probably like an open or wild format where all card sets are allowed to be used. So in general, in games like this, if you want to continually be competitive, you will need to keep getting the new types of the new cards or the new things that are put out. I mean, it's just kind of the way that these games work. The cool thing in this particular case with items and spells is that it'll be all up to the players to mint them. So, you can be the ones minting not only your own items and spells, but the ones that other people are buying, which is a very unique approach, in my opinion, to adding new cards to these type of games.
Yeah. There's always going to be, what we try to do is we want cards to be, we want the current editions to be affordable. We want normal human beings. You shouldn't have to be an Ethereum whale to be able to go purchase like enough cards to go play. In some of the previous editions that are scarce and done at lower print rates, and as more players join, there will that supply continues to shrink and the player base continues to grow, and so it's like a different economy over there for the cards that are no longer in print. But we're trying to find that good balance between welcoming new players, allowing whales to participate, and but not having them just automatically dominate everything. And so you'll find that some cards are more valuable than others, some items and spells are more valuable than others, and some people collect them pretty hard and spend money. And you'll also find that it may not be entirely necessary, and like we've seen, really clever gameplay should be able to go trump just about any kind of big spending, and that you're better off being super skilled. Although, that said, super skilled and mega powerful cards is about the right mix if you want to be the best. Let's see. It's not a question, but it's the how to play section seems to be pretty hard to find for new players. Just not as obvious as we think when it comes to click the little arrows to cycle through the battle practice learn button. So it's not.
Yeah, I think that's also included in the tutorial. So we made a little bit of progress there to make it easier to find. But yeah, I don't think there's any harm to like really just putting this in new players' faces. Like, hey, you should join the Discord, and hey, you should check out the how to play screen. That's something we can tell if they have done or not. Just like, maybe put up just like a pop-up when they log in. It's just like, check this out. So good suggestion.
In a post about totems, it was suggested the legendary totems would have a 100% bonus. Is that more or less the plan?
Yeah, so the post was an example if the totems have a 100% bonus. But that being said, like we talked about earlier, if we put out any number anytime, people jump on that. So I said that because that's what my guess is going to be for what their bonus will be, and we'll do our best to keep it at that, since we've already mentioned it. So that is more or less the plan right now.
Is there any?
Can I add? Sorry. And the reason I put that as an example is, a lot of people were talking about the value of totems, and as far as market value, we can't speculate on that at all. But as far as in-game value, if you have like some legendary plot with a magical resource, then the totem, the legendary totem that matches that type of resource or gives a benefit to that type of resource, would make it almost as if you have two of those plots. And it's sort of even better than having 2 of the plots because it doesn't require you to build 2 buildings and upgrade them and everything to harvesting. So that was just a way I put that out for people to try to evaluate, you know, the worth of the totems in the game, and why you might really want them.
Is there any upcoming update for the mobile app?
The mobile, I literally 2 minutes before the call got the message that the tutorial for the mobile app has been completed development. So as soon as this AMA is done, I'm going to go through that. I'm sure there's going to be some little changes and tweaks. So the next major update for the mobile app is going to be the mobile tutorial. The iOS version has been taking longer than we expected, mostly because the group that we work with, their iOS developer, was out for a little bit. But from like our development side end, it's mostly done, and I really think it should be released in February, or at least submitted for approval from Apple. We'll see how that goes in February. But yeah, so like literally at 10:58 a.m., 2 minutes before the call, I got a message that the tutorial work in mobile is all done. And as there's been a few questions about like new players and things. So for as difficult as it might be for new players to figure things out on desktop, it's still much more difficult on the mobile app because it doesn't have the tutorial yet. And we've seen, the data shows that there is just much better retention and percentage of spellbook purchases through the desktop app than the mobile app currently. So I think there's a lot of factors at play there, but one of them is definitely the tutorial. So I'm really looking forward to getting the tutorial added to mobile and seeing how that affects the numbers there. And then, that doesn't mean we're done. We're, one of the things in this space is you're never ever done with anything. That's just, the tutorial is the first step. And, as we get time and resources, we plan to just keep improving on the new player experience and retention and all that type of stuff.
What about tournaments? Where does that live?
Tournaments will be the next mobile project, big major mobile project. The main blocker right now is we need Nate to design them. So we'll have to work with him on his huge list of tasks and figure out where mobile tournament design fits.
Yeah, that poor man. We work him.
I was waiting a little bit until he gets the Guild War designs done, both because we need to focus on that first, and also because Guild Wars are basically a kind of tournament, and so he can kind of factor that into the mobile. Like, we don't want to spend all this time designing tournaments for mobile and then have to go back and like redo a whole bunch of stuff now to then add Guild Wars. So if we have both of them already designed for desktop, hopefully both of them can kind of be designed simultaneously for mobile.
Quest is asking, would you consider a new player assistance program where people can contribute higher quality cards into a pool, and the cards in that pool are randomly rewarded to new players, maybe for milestones or activity? Players who contribute to the pool can be given DEC rewards, extra packs, or maybe get a cut of DEC for every time cards from the pool are used to win battles.
See, the things like that, I think those are really awesome ways for the player community. Those are things that you guys can do without necessarily needing our involvement really at all. Like, all the data is public and available, and people can create, there's tons of people in the ecosystem who create bots and different things that should be able to build stuff like that. And we would obviously, encourage and help out where we can. It's just that, we have, as we've talked about on this call, there's just so many things we have to work on. So if there's any opportunity for you guys to do stuff like that, that would be fantastic. And I think this is a great idea, and it's something that should be able to be done without necessarily our involvement. But we will, let us know if someone wants to take on a project like this, and we'll help either with, if it's funding or donating cards or dark energy crystals or technical questions or whatever. Like, we would love to support community-led projects like this. Yeah, Lewis88 also had a question. about a double transfer, and yes, a few people have reported that. It seems to be some issue with keychain. And it's something that I need to look into, probably with Studkev, who's the keychain developer. But yeah, if there's ever a situation where you've actually lost any tokens for whatever reason, just let me know, and we'll get those taken care of ASAP.
Byzantinus is asking, how are things going with the noxious fumes rule set? Because it's currently deactivated while it's getting debugged.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to really spend too much time on that yet. So hopefully, like early next week. There were some like visual issues with the rule set, so I disabled it temporarily until we can get that fixed.
Crypto Eater is asking, what are the plans for PvE at the moment? If any, would lands have a large part to play in that? The PvE, we're hoping to get sort of in between the rolling out lands, because there's still a lot more art and like content development in general that needs to happen. There should be a little bit of a break between guild tournament rollout and land rollout, where we could try to get in our first boss fight and see what we come up with for that and what it looks like. So I think we can squeeze one of those in. That's the current plan. But some of that is, if Cryptomancer turns around and says, "Oh, I got it all done, and here's guild tournaments tomorrow," then that's a definite yeah, and we'll get it done. And if it's like late March and we're still struggling to get tournaments out, then that might get like punted back. So that's the challenge with development of it is on the list, it is the current plan, but we'll see what the reality allows us to do.
PvE is also just generally a difficult thing in any game with real valued prizes, because it's always exploitable in some way, right? Versus a PvP system. So that's why we haven't just like gone ahead and like thrown a bunch of stuff out there. I think you'll see a lot of like crypto PvE type of games like don't really have sustainable economies. That's not to mean that it can't be done and add value to the game, but it's just also a big part of why like we want to make something. We want to make something good. We want to make something that people like, and we want to make something that makes sense and is rewarding in a way that can't be taken advantage of. So that's not as much a technical challenge as much as like spending the time to really design something that is cool for that. But the initial phases of it will be some boss fights that Aggroed said we want to put some out soon as just a quick little taste of that and see how people like it and get feedback. In the longer run, I would think that lands have a large part to play in it because they go together quite well. You have a map, you have lands, there can be monsters and challenges and quests revolving around the land that can be all part of a more involved PvE system.
And I've been thinking about ways to sort of tie it to both PvE and PvP, so it ends up being sort of like a race or competition. So there have been games that I play where there's like a Tower of Doom or like a Dungeon of Doom, and you have to it's kind of survival mode where you would bring a set of monsters and summoners, and as they die, you no longer have them to be able to play. Combat keeps getting progressively harder, and the question then becomes which player is able to get farthest along in that. Through a mix of skill, a little bit of luck, and quality cards. So I could see some sort of like tower. It's not tower defense, that's its own thing, but like some sort of survival tower game is sort of in my brain as one of the next ways that we could introduce. Not quite a full-on boss fight, but kind of like a mini PvE challenge that is a race versus the other players. So I could see that being a thing. Um, let's see. What other utility will older cards gain once they're phased out?
Yeah, that's a really good question. It's important to be clear on. So, people shouldn't like be freaking out that we've said again multiple times on multiple occasions that we'll be introducing some type of modern type format for the main ranked ladder where you can only use the newer sets of cards at some point. I mean, we have to do that, right? It just gets ridiculous once too many cards out. You have a collection of 1,000 cards. You can't pick through them easily in 2 minutes. So just like every game, Magic, Hearthstone, you name it, we're going to have to phase out older sets. Now that being said, we do plan to have a open or wild ranked ladder, which would just be an additional pool of rewards for you to use any cards in the whole game. So the alphas and betas, those will definitely still be utilized there. And if there's not a lot of competition in that pool, then it's just, more rewards for the taking from other players. So that's sort of like market mechanics, whether it's worth it to play in which ranked ladder. But on top of that, a big part of the entire land expansion is to add additional utility for the cards. So don't want to play with your alphas and betas, no problem. They will have more bonuses on your land, right? So there's some pretty big additional utility for those older cards there, and that's all kind of part of a plan. We don't do things totally randomly here. So it's our goal that the older cards will always have utility and therefore significant value within the game, and it's always our goal to make sure that value in the game increases and that's reflected elsewhere.
Biz is asking, won't it complicate format options with modern versus open times items versus no items? You'd have to have modern items, open items, modern no items, and open no items. Or I guess you're using the wild and...
wild versus open.
So just,
yes, it would, and that's why we're not saying like this is exactly what it's going to be. So I think once a lot of things are going to change between now and when items and spells are actually released, and when we have wild and open formats or modern formats. So we're going to have to make sure it makes sense. If we can support more ranked ladders with more reward pools, then we'll try to do that. But if there's just certain formats and combinations that there's just not that much interest for, we're not going to offer them because there's no purpose just other than adding additional complexity. So basically it's a matter of seeing what the player base wants and what they want to participate in. And then also on that, ranked ladder is one part of the game. There's also tournaments, and tournaments give us a lot more flexibility to have a lot more different types. So that can be more flexible with modern versus wild or open, and whether items and spells can be used or not. And that also comes back to question about utility for older cards. So even though there might be a modern format for the ranked ladder, that doesn't mean we're going to stop making alpha only tournaments or alpha beta or beta only tournaments or whatever. So those cards will still have reward pools available only to them indefinitely. We have no reason to get rid of them, because we want to make sure that those cards still maintain value.
Question, has there been any discussion about future game style expansions after land and crafting is established? We mentioned the tactics.
Yeah, there's been discussion, but honestly, that's putting the cart before the horse. There's still so much to discuss and figure out for land and crafting and items and spells and all that stuff that real discussion and planning for the next thing, it's too early for that. But Aggroed, if you want to mention our thoughts for like a tactics style game, that's cool.
Yeah, we have, if you guys have played Final Fantasy Tactics, it's a turn-based strategy game, touch RPG, collecting items and spells, earning currency, getting drops, equipping your dudes. It makes for a pretty good set for us as we consider different games and different formats. So that's one of the next up on our list of, how else can you mess around in the Splinterlands. That's the one that I think we're thinking of next. We're running out of time, so let's hold off on any new questions. We'll go through the ones that are here and call it. Will there be any future raffles soon?
I don't think we're planning any future raffles right now. At least like the one we just did that was pretty specific to the land pre-sale event that we had. But we do have airdrops, on a somewhat regular basis for dice and for Untamed packs, and we're planning on having various other promotions with other projects and things like that. So we hope that there will always be some exciting things for players to participate in. I don't think we have plans specifically for a raffle like the one that we just did.
Wondering if you're going to get a reveal for the next dice airdrop.
Speaking of airdrops, yes, we are in the process of designing the cards, so the reveal should come hopefully like early next week, because they're getting down to the end there. So get your dice, get ready for that.
Would you consider partnering with fellow Hive blockchain dApps for events, Vim, 3Speak, and Dbuzz? The short answer is yes. We need to figure out terms and how we can do that, but we like partnerships, and the more partnerships we can make, the better.
Yeah, I might add that we haven't specifically focused on Hive-based apps for partnerships a lot, just because we're pretty well entrenched in that community, and mostly we're looking to get access to newer communities and newer players. So it was certainly open to helping support and working with other apps on the Hive blockchain, because we're part of this ecosystem together. But I'm just that's why we don't that's not something we're actively focusing on versus projects on other chains or other areas.
Okay. I was wondering about the 5K alpha and 35K beta packs held by Steam Monsters. Are those packs that people bought and have sitting in game, or is there still some of those available for future giveaways?
Do we have that? If you're talking about sitting in the Steam Monsters account on Hive Engine or Steam Engine, those are ones that are held on behalf of players. Like, players hold them in the game, and then the Steam Monsters account just holds the Hive or Steam Engine versions of those. So those aren't actually packs. Like, the Steam Monsters account on Steam Engine and Hive Engine isn't really stuff that we own. It's just representing stuff that's held in the game by other players, if that makes sense.
Yeah, currently we have 39 alpha packs, 700 beta, 70 orbs, and 200 odd untamed packs. And none of that is meant to be massive. Those are meant to be little giveaways here and there. Some of the untamed are used for the ongoing contests and some prize pools and things like that. You'll find that we for cards we also own. We do own some cards. We're getting down to not having that many. There's a few gold foil legendaries. We have a few regular legendaries. And again, they're not things that we sell into the market, but when we buy cards to go do distributions, we then also are eligible for airdrops, and then we give those away in different kind of prizes. So there's 3 Valinor. We have 4 Prince Renyans. We got a Kron. We got a stash of Chancius. So we have some of these things, and we use it for prize pools. So there's nothing 30,000 or 50,000 of these things, but there's some that we use for a couple different tournaments or giveaways, Digicon event kind of stuff. How did code affect your plans this year? Did it affect them in any way? It just made everything a little bit harder to do. I don't know about you, Matt.
Well, I think there were upsides and downsides. I think for one thing, it sort of like killed the whole ambassador program that you were trying to get set up earlier last year.
Yep.
So that was a bit of a bummer. But yeah, and it made things a lot more difficult in some ways, but it also, I think, really helped push the cryptocurrency narrative, and decentralization and blockchain and all that stuff. So that's good. It got a lot of people, were inside playing games and looking into this stuff a lot more than they might have otherwise. So there was good and bad.
Biz is asking, well, can't PvE simply use up ECR and use the same DEC reward pool as ranked? I think that's going back to the question of fairness and not gamifying or like taking advantage of PvE.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I wasn't saying that there's not ways that it can be done, but there's like, it's not just, oh, can it just do this and that's it? Because Buys, you're the one who like typically pokes holes, 17,000 holes in everything we do. So if we start setting up a PvE system, which we plan to, we're going to do our best to make it make sense as far as preventing farming and issues. But you and many other people are going to poke about 7,000 holes in different things or find different ways that can be gamed or taken advantage of. And it's a big project to kind of go through all those and try to address them and make a system that works really well. So it's not as simple as saying, can it just use the ECR and reward pool system? There's going to be more involved.
Let's see. When is the next AMA? You just want to do next week at 3 p.m.?
Yes, that works for me.
All right, let's do that. And it's 3 p.m. Eastern when Matt and I talk about times. We always mean Eastern time zone, being near Philly.
That should be 8 p.m. UTC.
Yep. Did you consider a rule ability that gives trample to melee, or I guess he said mage or ranged, but I think he needs magic or ranged.
Yeah, so there was a discussion about this at some point somewhere. So I don't think it would give the trample ability to mage and ranged, because to me that doesn't make sense. In that trampling means like a monster is like physically trampling over you, not like shooting at you from a distance. So I was thinking about that, and it makes sense to have like
a new ability.
A new ability, basically the trample equivalent. Which I don't know what it is. It's sort of like blast, but different in that you have to like kill the monster and it does a full attack on the next monster. But so yeah, if you guys have any name suggestions for an ability like that, that sounds cool.
All right. Zero Cool is telling us, by the way, devs, congrats. Raffle went super smoothly, and that is not something common within this industry. Thumbs up to you. So, nice to get just a little bit of praise at the end of something like this. I'm going to call it a day. That's our hour for now. Just want to share, as always, thank you to this community. Matt and I love doing what we're doing, trying to go build a blockchain game to go help mainstream cryptocurrencies and Hive, and getting people out of centralized finance and places where your GameStop can just stop trading whenever it's not favorable to the billionaires. Here we prefer mathematical rules and fairness for all and one common set of laws. So I'm glad you guys are here. Thanks for helping to spread this. Hopefully by bringing in more people into cryptocurrency, we can help change the world and make it more fair for all of us filthy plebs. So it's a pleasure to work here, pleasure to do this, pleasure to interact with this community. And I know I spend an enormous amount of time trying to figure out how do we get more players, how do we grow the game, how do we provide as much value to the guys that are here as possible. Anything to add, Matt?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And I really like doing these AMAs. As I mentioned, there's like lots of good suggestions, lots of good ideas, and I take lots of notes. So yeah, we're just really looking forward to everything that's coming up.
Yeah, it should be a good year. You guys are seeing a lot of market activity. You guys are seeing as prices go up. You know, what's also amazing is like when prices dump, it's not like you suddenly see the market cap of Splinterlands go, collapse as well. It's been pretty neat to see how resistant our cards are to market swings, and it's been fun to watch how all these new players just keep showing up and buying more of them. So I think we have a healthy game. This looks to be a really strong year for us, and without too much, without even like extra partnerships in what we already have, it looks like we're on a pace to double for our player base for the year. And I don't know, just overall, I'm pretty stoked, guys. I'm glad you're here. Thanks for doing this. Thanks for being a part of this with us, and it should be a killer year. Thanks all.